My name's Marcel. I'm the executive pastor here, and I have the privilege of seeing different men come and speak, some for the very first time. So today, we have the privilege of having Brian Jones, better known as BJ. He's going to speak to us today from God's Word. So I want you to give him a warm welcome and have Brian come up. As Brian comes up, let me brag about him a little bit. We, as many of you know, we've been doing the Tenacious Discipleship book in our groups, and I talked to him a while back about considering to speak on a Sunday morning on the topic of community. And I said, Brian, you haven't been in our church a great long time, but you have plugged in your family into group life, and you know, it's interesting to hear your perspective as opposed to my perspective. I've been here since I was 12, so you've heard that before. So I asked Brian to come today. Brian, he's one of our leaders in our youth ministry, our kids ministry, in Kids Zone. So he has a lot of experience teaching the kids, and you can thank him later for putting up with some of your kids. But he does a great job there. So we're very happy to have him today and his family with us. And then he's going to go ahead and share with us God's Word. So I'd like to pray before we get started, and then I'll let Brian go ahead and do his thing. Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for your goodness in our lives. And Lord, there's times that you challenge us to do things that maybe we haven't done before, to say things in ways or in formats or in areas that, Lord, it's new to us. But Lord, you always promise to be with us. You always promise to teach us through your Holy Spirit. So, Lord, Brian is a great example today of someone who has said, yes, I will take the step of faith, I will lean on God's Spirit, and I will do my best and trust God to do his part. So we're thankful for Brian, for Gina, for Mason, for Cameron, for Madison, their entire family. And we pray that you would just encourage us through what he has to say. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I feed off everybody else, so I need that this morning. We did the Spanish service this morning. It went well, but you're going to have to ask them their feedback. I haven't got to talk to anybody yet. And I anticipate everything is going to go well here today. So again, we're up here and we're ready to go. All right. But again, I first got to pay credit to our leaders for asking me to do this because it was a step of faith. I'm going to get into that in a few minutes as well. I'll save that for them. But when you look up and you see the picture of my family, again, we're here at Global Church. We've been here for almost 5 years now, coming and going, officially members about 2.5 years ago. But when I retrace my steps, I think about I was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. I stayed there all my life until I was 18. I came to Miami to go to the University of Miami for college. But all day, baby. We won't talk about last night because I was preparing. I didn't hear anything. Let's put it that way. I'll get to that later on this afternoon. But when I think about my spiritual journey and how everything started, I have to give credit to Golden Leaf Baptist Church, where I had my foundation at. The church that was built right around the corner from my house when I was in 5th grade. I told my mom one Sunday they were building it. I want to go. I wanted to check it out. She supported me. We went. And within like 2 or 3 months, I was there. I started growing in that church. And I really look back at the people that were around me, the youth my age and older, and then the church leaders that really set that foundation for what we're going to get into today. And I'm really excited about standing here before you guys because, again, this is a stretch of faith, definitely. But I want to make sure that I give total credit to our leaders in the church for actually reaching out to others to let them have the opportunity to do so. And I don't take it lightly because I know as the leaders of our flock, the shepherds of our flock, they get their direction straight from God, right? So if we were to believe that that's the case, then if they ask us to do something, you don't hesitate and do it. So before we get into today's new stuff, I want to go back to what Marcel ended on last week because I know a lot of our youth were out and they may not have heard that message, and maybe people that weren't here that Sunday. But I want to recap a couple of things because during last Sunday, a lot of things were reaffirmed for me. And when I sat there, we sat right over here last Sunday, and I told Marcel afterwards, that really hit me. I needed to do some prayers for reflection and go back and revisit everything that I've been doing for these last couple, because actually he gave me plenty of time to prepare But as we all know, when we get closer to the date, we're changing things and doing things and adding new stuff to it. And this was definitely something I needed to add. So I want to go back to Marcel's topic last week was spiritual progress through a spiritual test. And we looked at Abraham in Genesis chapter 22, 1 through 2. And we talked about a 5-part test God gave Abraham, all right? So if you look at the test, right, there were different components, but in those first 2 verses, we talk about the different things that Abraham was supposed to do. So it says there he responded. So first that indicates he had to listen first, right? And he called out, "Here I am." He was given the directive to take Isaac, the son of promise, whom he loved dearly, on a journey. Make preparations, then go, actually put action to it, actually follow through with what God told him to do. Not sit on it, not wait, not question it. But it's also then offer his son as a burnt offering during that time. And then believe that when he started his journey, God was going to lead him to the place he was supposed to go to fulfill what has been revealed to him. But a couple things are there. So when I look up in a wrap-up, Marcel asked us 3 questions. And this is when it really hit hard. I don't know about anybody else. Can you show me 3 questions for me? And I listed them as 3 soul-searching questions. Number 1, am I being tested? 2, am I willing to make the sacrifice? 3, when was the last time I worshiped God flat on my face? All right? So I had to reflect. Knowing I was going to be up here this Sunday, is this a test for me? So when we talk about our spiritual growth, our spiritual path, we always think about different things that come out of life that and sometimes they hit us and we question it, right? So one of the things I had to really get past was when I was asked to do this, I say asked, but I don't recall the conversation being asked. In my head, all I heard is at a complete difference. It was all, that Sunday's yours, here's the thing, we'll help. And it was one of those surreal moments, like, I know my head was shaking, yes, but everything else inside me was like, what are you doing? Like, stop, say something, ask a question. But you know what? Like, I've learned that when you plant yourself somewhere and you're following leadership, especially in church, that there's a certain form of deference. I'm going to go back to that word again. A form of deference that you give to your leaders, right? So when they asked us to do something, it was, yes, God will see me through it, and here I am today. But 3 things spoke to me when I did this, right? There was 3 truths that I pulled out of that, and the whole essence was around faith. The 3 truths spoke to me, definitely stood out from that message last week. Spiritual progress is when your faith moves you to trust God to take action. And if this is action, I don't know what else is, right? Second, worship is giving God unrestricted access to changes. And what really stuck out to me about that message last week was that fact that when you talk about worship, I was of the form that when I hear praise and worship everything, and Marcel did an excellent job, that the form of worship that we see now and hear now about singing and all that stuff, that is not always the end all to be all, right? Your worship is how God uses you to do different things. And if this was what my leaders asked me to do, then unrestricted access is what I need to give. The third one, it means we hold back nothing from God in absolute control. So I stand before you today. I plan to hold nothing back. I have the message together, and we're going to see where it takes us. The Spanish service we had, I believe, a great message. We had the translation piece in there too, so I had to slow down a little bit, and that enabled me to get my thoughts together for the English service. So I'm ready to roll. You guys ready? All right. I got my clock in front of me. I got this, so I'm not going to keep anybody past lunchtime. We got stuff to do today, but the essence of the message is going to be captured, and I do believe so. We're going to talk about spiritual progress through spiritual relationships, and those relationships in general are what we're going to look at different instances in the Bible and biblical references of how we can live that out in our daily life. But I'm as a person, if you ask me different, I have different sayings I rely on, things I learned over the years, but this one really stuck with me. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Now, if you do the research, you look up, you see credit given to Theodore Roosevelt and John Maxwell, some president and a business entrepreneur, motivational person, right? So, but when I really thought about this, we can adapt this to the Bible. What does the Bible say? And let us know about people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that sat with me because this was one of those pieces that came with me when we first started putting the message together this morning. So one of the things we got in the church we don't take for granted is the fact that our leaders provide us with ample opportunity to read, study, and do things on our own to grow ourselves. But we're growing as a church alongside of each other. Tenacious Discipleship is the book what we're going through now in our life groups, but we're also actually using it as a blueprint to help us manage the relationship and manage day-to-day life. And the blue book, the first book, is all about connecting, and it fits right into what today is. But also there's a second book, and it's Transform Along the Journey. And our own Janet O'Rear actually wrote that book. So when I looked at everything that was going on in both of these issues that we were given earlier in the year, and how to bring everything together, because my thing is how to make connections along the way, right? Nothing too abstract, nothing too all over the place. How do we make connections to everything we got going on, piece by piece by piece, and connect the dots? And I really wanted to make sure we did that today. So when I look at this and we look at Transform Along the Journey first, there's a part on page 5 that we're going to talk about first, all right? So in that, we talk about Peter and the life of Peter. So we see the fact that Jesus is offering a new relationship with himself. So in this part, in this biblical reference, we go to Matthew 4:18 through 20. If you have your Bible, you can start with me, but this is not one of those I'm going to have you flipping all around the Bible because I'm going to read a lot of scripture today. So we'll do focus on the message, and then we're going to do some reflection as well. So when I look at this, when I read it, while walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. Now, I want us to put ourselves in that picture for a minute, because we had talked about Peter. And everything that's going on historically is had. John the Baptist has been telling everybody about what's going on, and he baptized Jesus. Jesus had already dealt with the temptation in the desert. We're talking about the beginning of the actual ministry now. We have two individuals here, Simon, Peter, and Andrew, his brother. Now, we don't know exactly what's going on in everyday parts of their life, but we see two men who literally threw down everything and decided to follow. Why? So I think back to what was stated. Did Jesus say, "Hey, I have this new religion. It's going to be great. Your name is going to be remembered forever. Everything that's going on, you're going to be a leader of this and everything"? No. Jesus was offering a relationship with him, right? And we go to, Jesus invited Peter to follow him and walk through life together, side by side. He uses his personal analogy of Peter to paint the picture of what Peter was called to do. Peter was a fisherman, something he could relate with. He told him he was going to make him a fisher of men, right? We go to the next one. So this part came straight from Janet's book. He did not start off offering Peter a new religion, a new philosophy, or some new technique to make his life better. He was simply saying, "Follow me, let's walk through life together." So what we see here is a perfect blueprint, perfect model of what we should be doing as Christians in our daily walk. You guys got loosened up a little bit. I got to see everybody sitting so stiff and so still. Like, come on. All right, I guess that means you're paying attention, but that's good. But he's like, okay, I take it back. I'm used to kids in the classroom, I'm sorry. So I'm used to fidgeting and moving around, and I'm giving cutting eyes and then back and forth. So I take this from adults, this is good. All right, you're making me nervous up here. All right, but when we look at Peter and everything that was going on, we see two men who literally cast down their nets and decided to follow Jesus, to build that new relationship with him. All right? So also, we talk that Jesus was also offering other new relationships. We look at believers who are designed to walk through life together to become more like Jesus. So when we do this, we talk about our spiritual growth and talk about connecting with one another. What relationships do we have with each other inside this church, when we go outside in the community, in our school, in our workplace, in our everyday lives? So the question here is, what is your plan to walk together and other believers to grow your faith? And I hope that, throughout, as we go, and I left my water over there today. As we go through the day, we'll get another way of another view on how we should live our walk and go through day-to-day in those interactions and building relationships. So here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to go straight to next slide, I'm sorry. The second piece from it, I apologize, thank you. The second piece from that, from Jana's book, because I want to give credit where credit is due, because this one at least stuck out to me about the people we meet and the interactions we have. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so there are other people who are accepting my invitation to follow. They will also be on the journey. You'll find people like yourself, other fishermen, so he made that connection compared to himself, right, to Peter. But there'll also be people different than you, tax collectors, zealots. We're all on the same journey. As we all walk through life together, the goal is to become more like me. So that charge right there tells us that we are to do this together. It's not a single one-person path, one person's mission to reach, to live that Christ-like life. We all have to help each other along the way. And when we do this, we're really looking at what does the Bible say about it? What does our daily life, how do our interactions go with that? How do they work side by side? And then how we move forward in our Christian walk, right? So one of the things that I had always been interested in and caught my interest early in life was the concept of subliminal messages, right? I heard about them when I was little in movies. You know how they tell you when you're younger, subliminal message. They put pictures and little phrases in the beginning of movies to make you want to go buy a drink or go buy the popcorn or whatever. So this thing fascinated me, and I actually did a little bit of studying when I was younger about all these different things. But subliminal messages are defined as messages or signals below the absolute threshold level of our conscious awareness. So we're not even thinking about what's going on. The pictures flash, we hear the little sounds, we do it automatically. So if I stand up, and I'm not a singer, I'm not any of that above, but if I stand up here and I say, ba-da-ba-ba-bum, most people know what I'm talking about, right? All right. We've been ingrained with different messages over the years, whether it's something musical, something visual, that when we hear and see these things, our mind goes straight to this. Oh, I'm hungry now. Oh, I'm thirsty now. Oh, I need to make a phone call to this. Oh, I need to go to this place and do this. Oh, you know what? I really want some McDonald's right now. Why do I want that right now? It just gets us, right? But when we talk about the Bible, we talk about the text that our leaders have written and we use them to guide us through on this path. We talk about the supraliminal. And I started doing some research because I had never heard of this word before. So I'm introducing it to you because it was introduced to me through research, right? So you talk about supraliminal, existing above the threshold of consciousness, adequate to evoke a response or induce a sensation. Now, again, we're dealing with the Bible and the Word of God. And I can honestly say, just reflect for a minute. I want everybody to reflect for a minute. If we're to say this is our Bible, this is our word, this is the way we should be living life, we believe everything that's written in here. If what's in here is not adequate enough to evoke a response or induce a sensation, we have to do an internal check of ourselves. Is that fair to say? All right. So when I saw this word and I saw the whole thing about the context, like we have everything, there's no subliminal message given to us. We're given a direct blueprint, a direct path of what we should do and how we should live our life, how we should interact with each other and build those relationships. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to go through building those relationships through the one another's, right? So healthy relationships. How do we gauge this thing called life? How do we walk day to day? How do we interact with those individuals we come across with, whether it's somebody we would normally interact with anyway or somebody that's totally different from a different walk of life, a different area, different mentality, different religion, whatever the case may be. How do we treat each other? How do we do this? So this really intrigued me when I did even more study because I try to relate to everything I do today. So one thing I always do when I'm in front of kids or I'm in front of teachers of kids is you have to make those connections, right? You can't just stand up here and just say, this is what it says, whatever, put it down, go do it. How can people practically take away what you're talking about and apply it to life or reflect on it and make it a part of their daily life? If they need to make changes, pray about it, or share that out there. So one of the things we look at is, I want to introduce with a video, start with a video.
But unfortunately, for many of us, it has become, and for many of the people in our churches, it's become the place, not the gathering. Now, the reason this is important and the reason I spend time on it, the reason I want to wrap up our time together talking about it, is primarily because I was sick yesterday. But other than that, the reason I want us to wrap up our time talking about it today is that because what you do and the focus of your job and the focus of your responsibility in your church dips deep into this idea that the church is not a place. The church is a gathering of people. It's why Jesus said what he said, and we quote it all the time. Wherever what? Wherever two or are there. Yeah, there it is. Why? Because I'm going to build gatherings of people. Now, so here's what makes what you do so important. When you open the New Testament, and not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because that's, right before the church was launched. When you open the rest of the New Testament, what you discover about the church is this, that the primary activity of the local church was one anothering one another. It was purely relational. That the primary activity, which should make sense, because if I'm going to create a growing gathering of people, if the church is going to be, identified as a group of people that are in relationship with each other, connected to each other, if it's going to be a growing gathering of people, then obviously it's going to be all about their relationships. So it would make sense when you open the New Testament and read what the primary activity of the New Testament was. The New Testament church, their primary activity was one anothering one another. But if you ask the question, hey, Paul, what do you have to say about how we get along? It's all about one anothering one another. Check this out.
One anothering one another. So when I was doing the research and kind of find that was a perfect segue, the perfect foundation I felt for this. And I'm going to put this out there too. The younger people in the crowd, everybody in the crowd, but the younger people especially, once we go through these and we start talking about how we live our lives, the sooner, the earlier we get these down, the better our life will be later on in life, right? I can honestly say since learning about these and applying a lot of the different principles in life, that different situations have come up at work and life, with family, whatever case may be, that actually has made life just a total easier. That I know there's a biblical foundation for and reason of how we interact and treat each other. So there's no reason why I'm upset about stuff. There's no reason why different relationships fall by the wayside if we can really practice and instill the one another in our daily life. So what they say, it gives us a model on how to build healthy relationships, not just with Christians, but with everyone we come in contact with. So let's look at the first one. And we're still going to be grounded in, remember that quote. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you, all right, make sure it's still awake. Okay. All right. So when we get into the one another, the first one, to be of one mind with one another. We go to Romans 15, 5 through 7. All right? Romans 15, 5 through 7. May the God of endurance and encouragement grant you to live in such harmony with one another in accord with Christ Jesus, that together you may with one voice glorify the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you for the glory of God. Now, there's two key words in this passage that stood out to me when I was reading it: endurance and encouragement. Because this is not a overnight thing or flip the switch. Human nature tells us that sometimes in some relationships, as we're being of one mind, we're building unity, we're building these relationships, that a lot of times those human nature instincts kick in and we need encouragement. We need that endurance, right? To make sure that we can stay the course and ensure that that's our daily life, our daily walk. Now, so when we look at this, we talk about working together, pursuing unity. I reflected back to over the summer when we had our Christ Above Culture series that Marcel was doing here at the church. We had a lot of conversations, a lot of different things. And even I want to point out the fact that I talked to him afterwards, and he was sharing our series with another pastor, and that pastor was really surprised that we as a church undertook that series and talking about that message. Because it was very important to us as a church to have that conversation. Other people are not doing that, right? So what does that say? Again, our leaders know what we need and know what we should do and how to set the example for us to then turn that out in the world. But when I look at everything that's going on, I look at on the job, stereotypes, prejudice. How do we, through the Bible as Christians, how do we walk our daily walk and set the example for everybody else? So I told you, well, I don't remember if I said in the English or Spanish service. Everything's like mashed together right about now. But education is my background. So one of the things we always do is give time to talk, and then we give time to reflect, right? So what I want everybody to do right now, underneath the first one another, be patient and kind with one another, write down a situation or a person that you need God to assist you with through building patience and kindness. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Take a minute to write one situation or group that you feel could be an example of how through Christ unification occurs. What steps do you need to do to ask Christ? Through prayer, through conversations with a pastor or somebody else? What steps do you need to do to help yourself get to the point where we're talking about being of one mind with another, creating that unity, whether it's in work, whether it's in our family? I know we all know there's always some type of family things going on. There could be some type of family thing going on that some people are divided, right? What's one thing that is on your heart right now, on your mind, that you would like to ask Christ to help you with? So our next one is to be patient and kind with one another. And for this, we go to Ephesians 4, verses 1 through 3. I, therefore, a prisoner of the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. And we flip to verse 32 as well. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God and Christ forgave you. Now, this is one that over the years I've had to ask personally for personal help and pray on it a lot, right? Because I'm going to try to be as open book as possible up here before you today. Nobody's perfect, and by no means am I standing up here saying that I got this down packed. But when I know the things that made it easier in my life is through prayer and through constant reading, was that these things have become easier to manage and easier to handle. So when you talk about patience in the workplace, I have patience with kids all day. Some adults, pray for me. I'm still working on it. All right, and that's not. And I say that with all humility because it's one of those things where I was literally raised that you do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. Right? That's just something that has been ingrained in us through my parents, through my grandparents, just through interactions, whatever. So when I see that's not happening out in the world, it's one of the things like, what's wrong? What's wrong with this picture? That's not the way it's supposed to be. So this is one of the things that I personally had to ask God to help me with, especially in my field, working with all adults now and not in the classroom in front of kids, that this is that ongoing process, let's put it that way. And this is one of the things that I know when I talk to a lot of people, they struggle with on a daily basis. Being patient and being kind with one another. We talk about the fruits of the Spirit. I always go back to 2 summers ago. The Fruit of the Spirit song is still in my head. I'm not going to sing it because, again, I'm not a singer. I don't want anybody to get up and run out the room right now. But at the same time, when I think about what it is and how we to do this, these are the different things that on a daily basis I'm asking help with. So my question to you, reflection time for you is a situation or person that you need God to assist with you, assist to building patience and kindness within you. Right? Is there a person or a situation going on right now? The patience and kindness is one of the areas that you need assistance with. Jot down a quick message or a quick note real quick. So the next one's coming from Romans 12, verse 10. Give preference to one another. All right? And it reads, love one another with brotherly affection, outdo one another in showing honor. This is the one that when I start reflecting and we have a sense of what does preference mean? Biblically, what does preference mean? When I look at this, it's like we reflect on and give preference to those of us around us. That means putting others before yourself, right? So when we put others' needs before yourself, recognizing their great importance over our own, hold others in high honor, this doesn't mean be a doormat for people. Let people walk all over you. Let people take advantage of you and just pretty much take your kindness for weakness. But some sacrifice in there has to be made because we're talking about putting their needs before. So a lot of times it's to make sure I'm okay, making sure my immediate family's okay, but what else has to go? What else has to happen to make sure they're okay? So when the reflection piece for this one is there an area of my heart that I need to be praying about with preference to one another? Meaning, is there somebody else I need to pray about putting them before myself? Again, not for them to walk all over you, but is there someone else that you can reach out to and actually put their needs before your own? Like, I really think about this in different situations we come through, building relationships over the years with just giving somebody, you know what, I can sacrifice going to the game this weekend because somebody else needs help in their yard. There's an older elderly couple that needs help in their yard. I don't have to go to this event because I can give this time and go do something at my kid's school, right? Is there something else that we can give ourselves to a bit to benefit others that we could take away from ourselves? And it does require sacrifice. Serving one another. 1 Peter 4:9. This one just simply reads, show hospitality to one another without grumbling. Now this is one when Russell read this morning in Spanish, there was a lot of like a little coughing in the crowd. And I don't know what that was about. That's not my thing, but it struck a chord with a lot of people. Because when we talk about show hospitality, it's really not just always, we talk about opening your house, somebody needs food, but in general, I think about this as hospitality on every level. Is that, and this is one thing that I hope that is our goal that we're passing on to our kids, and I say it all the time, and I hope they're listening. I'm looking at them right now. I'm looking at them right now. It's a blessing to be a blessing, right? The many different things we have in our lives, the many blessings we have, sometimes we take things for granted. And when we actually look back and reflect, are we to use those blessings to bless somebody else? That may be, again, it may be sharing food, it may be sharing residence, it may be helping somebody out financially, it may be helping somebody out a referral to a job, it may be anything under the sun, right? But when you're blessed with something, are you blessing other people in return? Again, because a lot of times I was taught early on, and Gina still has to remind me, that sometimes I may be blocking my own blessing, right? And that's one of the things I really have to think about every single time when a situation occurs. Is me helping somebody else, is it a detriment to me and my family? If not, go ahead and do it, right? We have to, again, we put others before ourselves and have that humble heart with it when it comes with it. But when we look at the whole scenario, is it a real detriment for me to pass on a blessing to somebody else? And I can tell you honestly, there's been several times when I'm out and about in Lilly, I know it's the end of the week, or I literally have, $10 left in my pocket, and something happens, and I end up buying a meal for somebody because I can just tell from their situation that that's what they need right then and there. It's $10 for somebody who's in the store, and the mom is buying groceries, and they're about to put something back because, they went over their bill, whatever budget they have, they're like $10, $15 over, and like, you know what, here, just take it, don't worry about it. Just bless somebody else. The whole idea of paying it forward. And then, but when we do that, it's with a humble heart and a Christ-like attitude. Strengthen one another. Sorry, go back real quick for reflection on that one. Has there been an opportunity you can think of where your actions didn't align with your heart was leading you to do? No need to write this down, though. Just think about this one, because I want you to, it is nothing that you have to write down because you know what you know, right? If there's a situation that, you know what, this situation presented itself, I may not have acted or responded in a way that I thought I knew I should have, but next time I'll be more conscious of it. That's what we're here to do today. That's what we're talking about. How do we proceed from this point on? We're drawing a line in the sand and moving forward. Strengthen one another. 1 Thessalonians 5, 10 through 11. When I look at this one, okay, I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna go to start at verse 9 with this one, because this one really hit me when I want to make sure I covered it all. Verse 9: For God has not destined us for wrath, but to obtain salvation through the Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us, so that whether we are awake or asleep, we might live with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. Now, the main point I want to hear today is the little things you do for people go a long way. What does that mean? Offering to pray for somebody. Offering just to come over and, you know what, just sit with them during time of bereavement. Offering kind words during encouragement, during a difficult situation or a joyous celebration. Whatever the case may be, are you taking the extra time to just strengthen them and encourage them? But also have to go back and kind of reflect on today's age and a prime example. Has anybody ever been having a bad day and you either open up social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and somebody has a post there, it may be spiritual, it just may be inspirational in general, but that quote touched you and talked directly to you? Anybody? All right. So I say that because I was reflecting, actually when this was all put together, there were different things posted at different times that kind of spoke to me and encouraged me to keep on doing what I was doing. So I wanted to point that out again, because when we see those things, don't take it by mistake that message wasn't meant for you. Whoever posted it doesn't matter. Whoever is responding to it doesn't matter. If you posted it and didn't get as many likes, it doesn't matter. The like you didn't get may have been the life you touched, right? So if there's something come across, and a lot of times there's things that come across that, again, I can't even tell you exactly why I would repost it or post it. It's just I do it. And then maybe a year from now, a couple months from now, somebody will tell you, you know what you did, posted that day, it really spoke to me. And I had to give a personal testament to this one, because I did it first time in Spanish service this morning, but I have to shout out James Agri here. And he doesn't know I'm doing this, and he wasn't here in Spanish this morning. Because James and I, we went to college together. No, you're good. Don't start sweating. We went to college together, and from 2007 to 11, we moved back to Ohio. My family and I moved back to Ohio, take care of some family things and back there. But I can tell you what, every day, without fail, I got a text message from James on his distribution list, right? He would send out daily scriptures or spiritual messages that really, and I don't know who all was on the list, I never really asked, right? But I can tell you, during the difficult times in family, with finances, with job, all that stuff, whatever he sent that day spoke directly to me. And I never got to publicly thank you, so I'm doing that right now. Because there were different times when, again, we didn't talk. We barely talked. If it was at homecoming, maybe down here once a year. But during that 4-year span, we really didn't communicate back and forth. And it really was those text messages daily. I started looking forward to them. Like, he missed it there, like, yo, what's up? Like I looked at the phone like, you didn't send it today. And the next day, it said something else like, okay, maybe you do have other things going on. So it's not all about me. Take myself out of the picture for a minute. But those little things like that are sowing seeds that we won't see them grow until later on in life. Somebody can actually say 10, 11 years later that daily message is what helped me get through difficult times in my life. So I thank you personally for that. And those are different things that when we are, as believers, we do those things. Whether people tell us they receive it, they like it, they don't like it, whatever the case may be, it's about sowing the seeds and build those relationships later on in life. Right? Teach and admonish one another. For this one, we go to Colossians 3:16. To do this one, though, I had to go back and understand really, because I understand it, but how to best make it understandable for everybody else. When we talk about admonish one another, do we really have an understanding what that means? And I go back to the definition is simply to give friendly, earnest advice or encouragement. Now, don't let the friendly, earnest advice fool you. It's not all positive, always all positive, but it's how we learn to grow to help each other, and vice versa, how other people can help us learn and grow. So example could be talking to a brother or sister about a spiritual blind spot they may have that you notice that could potentially lead them down a dark path. So when I think about admonishing one another, in this sense, it is our duty to, if we see something going on in somebody's life that may be a blind spot to them, to make them aware. But there's also a second side to that coin. If there's something, if we're receiving that, right, we have to have a humble heart to accept what people are giving to us and saying to us about it. So when we look at the whole picture and we look at everything put together, it's remaining humble enough to receive the earnest advice, accept it as feedback. But either way, it's our job as Christians to do it with pure intent. And I go back to the doctrine classes we had over the summer, the beginning of the summer. At one of the times, this was one of the topics that Russell was talking about. And it took me back for a minute because I never thought about it on that level, because he was saying that a lot of times they may say something or do something, and their perspective is totally different than the audience or the people receiving the word. And they've had several times where people have come up to me after the service or after a message and say, hey, what about this? Or did you think about this? And it's not as a sign of disrespect, but he said that he welcomed it because it was a chance for him to kind of reflect, and it was that person's job to do it. So how many people, you don't have to raise your hand, just think about it for a minute. Have you seen somebody going down the wrong path and you could have said something, right? You could have reached out and gave that encouraging word, or just made them aware of what you're seeing, to not let them stray down that path. And later on, I'm not sure how the story worked out, but hopefully everything worked out in the right way. But if not, could the thing you have said had changed that person's trajectory? Could you have said that one word, that one message, or led them to that one place that would actually help them get back on path? And that's the attitude we have to have when we think about this one another all together. All right? So, the last one, and in my opinion, is like it puts a stamp on it. Right? We're going to talk about love one another. So when we talk about love one another, it's the most repeated one another in the New Testament. There's 15 instances of this charge, so it's repeated the most. So how do we navigate this thing called love? God's word gives us the blueprint on how to do it. So I'm going to read a verse, and it's going to sound familiar to almost everybody. No, nobody's getting married, right? But you'll recognize when I read it. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustices, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. So when I saved this one for last, even though depending on where you look up and you look up to one another's, this is probably the one that's listed at the top on everybody's list. But I wanted to save it last to actually go through and make a point with this. Because when I read this one, and I read that one set of verses right there, I see everything we talked about in the one another's already wrapped up in a package with a red bow on it. Because without love, all those other things fall to the wayside, right? We're not really fulfilling the full intent of our life, or the full intent of the one another's, if love is not a part of everything that we do. So there's many other references to it, but I want to go straight to a quick thing. So when I was putting all this together and trying to figure out exactly what to do, how to do it, and make it to go together, I was trying to figure out which test, before I even went into the Tenacious Discipleship Improved verses, like, what do I know about love? That's the loaded question. I don't know anything about love. I'm learning about love, right? So what we do with this is, I want to go back into, but something stuck out to me, and I was trying to figure out I knew I wanted this to be last, but I didn't know how to wrap it up and package it together for me. So I want to go back and talk about my grandmother for a minute. My grandmother passed away in December 2015, and during that time, it was a hard time for us, right, as a family. My grandmother was the matriarch of everything. I would dare to say on my father's side of the family too, at that point in time. That's the strong personality and who she was and how she loved everybody. But she lived these one another we talked about today. I can guarantee you that she lived them out daily life, at least to us as a grandchild. And I'm biased. I'll be honest, I'm biased. But I saw these lived out in every day of her life. But the thing I wanted to point out is that when she passed away, it was my mom's job to go through and go get everything ready. And a lot of times when somebody passes away, you're tasked with writing the program and writing the obituary in the program. I tell you, my grandmother had everything written out already. She had it laid out. And then I talked to my mom, where she had it, my mom had been there, had been by there 50 million times, and had never seen this thing before. When my grandmother passed, the clothes were laid out. A note was done to say, this is what I should be buried in. This is the order of the program. If this pastor's still alive, this is who I want to give the. When I talk about planning, I put nothing on my grandmother. Like, she planned every aspect, but she planned out her program, the songs she wanted to sing, and the scriptures she wanted to read. And I'm thinking about all of this, how to wrap it up, how to package it, and then something told me, Graham's funeral. I'm sitting and I'm thinking, listen, like, but what about Graham's funeral? I'm literally talking to myself, like, what about Graham's funeral? I don't understand. So I called my mom and I said, like, can you do me a favor? Can you I don't have my program out available. We moved twice since then. Well, I think twice. I don't know anymore. We moved since then, and it's packed away somewhere. But I know you have yours out. Can you do me a favor? Can you read the program and tell me what the New Testament passage is from Grandma's funeral? And sure enough, she started reading. I was like, that's confirmation, right? 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 13, right? And if you have your Bibles, I want you to go there for this one, right? I'm going through. And now I'm standing in front of everybody and I'm going crazy. I need some theme music in the meantime. Okay. So we already read 4 through 7. Jump down to verse 13. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. And that was how my grandmother's scripture for her funeral was ended. And that left a lasting impact on me, and I hope the other people that were in attendance there, because that was the way she lived her life, the way she showed us affection, the way she went through everything that she did, no matter what the situation was, no matter what wrong you did, how good your job you did, love was always a factor. Love was always in the picture. So when I look at that and I saw that and my mom confirmed that's what it was, I knew this was the scripture that had to kind of end the one another's on, just because of that personal connection. Because things like this, when she planned out her program, planned out her funeral service, it was what she wanted people to remember about life. What charge she wanted from that day forward. If you remember nothing else, the greatest of these is love. That was the last scripture that was read that day, and it stayed with me for this full time. And again, I hope that's one of the things that we're passing on as we go through life. Okay, I'm past the emotional part right now. Okay, we're good. So our goal is to carry out this thing called love in interactions that confront us on our daily lives. So what is the church's role in all of this? Let's go forward real quick. You build healthy relationships by actively participating in rows, circles, and triangles. Now, I know we've heard this before. We're going to talk about it a little bit more as a quick video.
Isn't it pretty much all about how we one another? Here's why. Well, how about this one? Then Jesus kind of capped it off. He said, by this, everyone will know that you're my disciples. I mean, gosh, we've all memorized this. Everyone will know you're my disciples if you, has nothing to do with how you worship, how you take communion, how or when you baptize, who gets baptized, where people sit, how long you preach and teach, has nothing to do with any of that. It's all about one another. In other words, the hallmark of the church, the hallmark of the Jesus gathering, is how well we get along with one another. And here's what you know that we all know. On Sunday morning, when everybody's sitting in rows, you can't do any one another's. The only one another's that go on.
Sound familiar? We've heard this before. Right? Whether you've seen Stanley video before, or if you heard our leaders stand up here and talk about this, we got to get out of the rows. So what happens? We come to church every Sunday morning, and we worship. We have the message, the word, and we leave here and we go out into our daily lives. But throughout the week, we have different situations, different difficulties that come up, different just life experiences that happen, whether good or bad. Not everything is in a negative connotation. But when we have all these situations occur, it really affects us and brings us down. It can bring us up, it can bring us down, it can have us in the middle, it can have us in our feelings one day and happy another day and sad another day, whatever case may be. But it goes back to something that Russell said, and I had the date on 10/7, Russell was talking, because I took note. I went back to my notes because I know we just talked about this, right? It's all about the meaning of the church, and we talk about church. We're going to church on Sunday. What does that mean? We're coming to a building, a place where the gathering comes together. But we need to get past that and understand the church is us, right? This is just a building that holds us, that keeps us from the environment outside. It gives us AC in the summertime. Well, I can't say heat in the winter. I'm not up north. But if we needed the heat in the wintertime, right? So this place protects us and shelters us. But the church is actually our daily lives and how we go about. And when we leave here, how do we take what we learn here and apply it to the world? So we talk about the rows, circles, and triangles. Go back to the quote. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Now, so the first thing is to get out of the row mentality as a salvation plan. What I learned a long time ago is just coming on Sundays, and I thought as a kid, like, I go to church every Sunday. Like, why are you pressuring me to go to Bible study on the days? That's like every day of the week, mama. Like, you want me to go? Like, then you get old enough to make your own decisions, then you feel guilty if you don't go. Then you go, and it's like, and in your mind is playing tricks on you, like, all the things you could have got done. Then you don't go again, and it's like, oh, I feel I missed something. Everybody's talking about it. I feel left out. So I have all these mixed emotions in my head, but what does it really mean? Can we really live out our lives for that? So we've been charged to join a circle, and in this church we call it our life groups. So what's life group? What happens in life group? Well, a couple of points. You love people genuinely. You get to practice the one another's. You get to pray for one another, and you grow your faith, right? So I got to stop and brag for a minute because I believe, yes, I'm biased, I'm saying that up front, but I believe my life group is the best we have here. And I'm sure all my other leaders and all my participants say the same thing about yours. But I'm on stage right now, so it's my time, right? So when I look at that, when I reflect on it, like I think back to how we started. I got to tell that story first. It's because I told you we've been attending Global Church for about 5 years now. We didn't become members to about 2.5 years ago, and then at first it really was, my schedule's too busy. We heard about life groups, and we saw our leaders stand up here, and this is my church. This is the church I go to, but I'm not following the instructions of our leaders. So we had a conversation like, we need to look at a schedule and carve out time to go to a life group. We need to make it a priority to attend a life group. Not just for us, it's for the benefit of the church and for the group. So we did that. So we started coming. For us, it was Mason was coming on Tuesday nights to what is now Vital for middle school. Like, okay, so what goes on Tuesday nights? Well, we tried a couple groups before, and schedule-wise, again, I'll go back to that real quick. Schedule-wise, it was like, well, this is happening. We can't make a night. Well, only I can go. You can't go. So let both of us not go. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible here, folks. Okay. So this is the things that are going through our head and our life, and I hope nobody else is going through this right now, but if it is, use me for an example. So when we talked about it and we thought about it, like, okay, we need to figure out something to make it a priority. So the thing was, Mason's coming on Tuesday. Ideally, Tuesday night here at the church would be ideal. At that point in time, there was no group forming. What we didn't know was prayers were going out, and I'm looking over to my left here. Prayers were going out for a life group to start on Tuesday. Marty has shared with us a story. And again, I thank her for sharing that story because it kind of just put everything in perspective. When we made the decision to step out on faith, God handled the rest, right? So we didn't have to worry about, well, is there a group or is there another group we got to travel? Somebody had already been in contact with the leaders of the church and said, hey, we want to start a group on Tuesday because there's other parents who bring their kids, and they're trying to do another night as well, and multiple nights is not an effective way to do this. So is there a group here on Tuesday nights? The answer was no. So it became, we're going to join the life group to, why don't you lead the life group? I think Gina almost had a coronary there tonight. Like, what do you mean lead? Like, this conversation we're having, what do you mean lead? We just started. What? Like, babe, we said we're going to do this. We said we're going to do this, and this is what has been placed before, so we need to go with it, right? As our group started September, August, last year when we started that cycle of life groups, and then people just started coming. People started coming, and sharing their stories about different things that they were looking for different life group. They was here at church because of transportation and driving at night. It was people who had got off work and they had to pass here to go home anyway. It was just people, parents dropping their kids off. It was God's plan. It was nothing that we could have predicted, nothing we could have put together, nothing we say, you know what, Tuesday night is the only night we could do it. If it ain't Tuesday night, it's not going to happen. I think we would have been like struck down if we would have said something like that. But let's say, when you step out on faith, God handles the rest. He takes care and provides. So we saw our life group grow upstairs in one of the juniors' room upstairs. Average about 8 people last year to this year. So this cycle now, and I'm bragging again. I say ours is the best. Again, I'm on stage right now, so I can say that. But when I look at the growth that's happening and the people that have returned, now we have to plan for anywhere from 16 to 20 people here on Tuesday night in the bookstore. And that's nothing but God's doing, right? We talk about life group, we talk about small group. It's not about small group in this. It's like, how can we grow and use each other to grow on? So what are some of the benefits of coming to life group? Well, personally, it caused us to get on one accord better. Gina and myself. I'm pointing at her like everybody knows who I'm talking to. My wife's sitting there. To get on one accord better, and planning and preparation is reach out to other leaders like Madi, who had been part of life group before, who was actually assisting us in the process of the organization and running and tap into those that were already part of the life group. It was getting to know people that were there last year and watch them grow this year and bring other people with them. I can't tell you how many weeks we sat there and somebody was always bringing somebody new. And it wasn't that nobody was apprehensive about somebody new joining the group. Everybody was welcoming them in and welcoming them back. When are you coming back? Let me reach out to you. Hey, we got food. What are we going to do next week? We're going to have this and this. Make sure you come back next week. All these different things were going on. And again, there was nothing that we could have planned. There's nothing that we could have done, but we stepped out on faith to make that happen. So we get there now, and we're planning for that. I've seen more and more people come, and more people grow. The stories you hear from people in life group, it gives us a chance just to connect with one another and build relationships beyond when we're sitting in rows and you look down and say, "Hey, I saw that person. I know you. Don't you go to Global?" Or you see them out in the store, like, "I think they go to church." Let me not say that because I don't want to make a fool of myself if that's not them. Right? It gives us a chance to kind of connect with one another and get to know each other on a deeper level. So there's people who, in our life group, we use WhatsApp to communicate during the week. And I found out this year has been a blessing because we know life doesn't just happen to pray about on Sunday, right? And then other prayer about on the Tuesday night during our life group. Things happen every single day out there with everybody in our life group. And the fact that people are willing enough and comfortable enough to put in everything they need prayer for or pray for others. I've seen it evolve to the point this year where I believe everybody is being blessed and seeing the blessings that are coming out of it. Because again, when more and more people are praying for a situation, praying for a person, then you see the results that God is doing, right? Because it becomes a part. We're all pulling for that person. We're all pulling for that situation to make sure that they're transformed along the way, along the journey. See how I tied that back to that other book, Transformed Along the Journey? Nobody caught that. Only a couple people caught that. Okay. That means go back and read the book. All right. So outside of that, what else does that mean? So outside of life groups are circles, triangles. All right. Form a triangle. And that may mean be with somebody you have no idea with. Like today after church, maybe there's somebody you don't know for. Maybe I know a group of ladies that come up and pray every Sunday after church up front. And they've been doing that for a while. That's their time to connect with one another. I've seen other groups pray out in the parking lot. I've seen every other people, and it's not something that has to be, hey, we're going to meet every Monday or whatever, but whatever the case may be, whatever your schedule entails, make time to connect with other Christians, other believers, and other non-believers as well, and show them what the power of prayer can do. Conversation, prayer partner. At this point in time, it's not a triangle, but I've built a relationship with Marcel that there's been certain times where there's been things we as a family is like we question. When Mason was talking to us about being baptized and accepting Jesus' heart, it's like, okay, what are the next steps? So we had conversations. Call them up, came to the house, sat down, had a conversation. We have leaders that would do that. We have people in our congregation that are willing to do that for you and with you, right? But the thing is, we have to make those connections. Because I'm an introvert by heart. And I'm standing up here before you today, and you're probably looking at me like, no, you're not. You're lying. I'm not lying on God's stage. But I was the person that came in. If I saw you, if I walked past you, I said hi. I may shake your hand, give a hug, and I'm going to go find my seat. 4 rows up, 2 seats in. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to be here before church started. When the thing comes up to shake hands, I'm going to make about a 360-degree turn right there, whoever's in my reach. Shake, and I'm gonna go sit back down, right? So it's been personal that I have to go back and step out of my comfort zone because that part of me never flourished. I grew up like you go strangers, you don't talk to people. I mean, you go up north, like I'm sorry, you walk people, you may give a head nod, you don't even say what's up, you don't even say hi, you just kind of keep on going. But I realized coming to Miami, I realized we're huggers. We're handshakers, right? So, and also I had to realize that somebody else may be offended by me not staring in their eye or saying hi to them. And I had to realize that it's not about me, right? It's not all about us. So I had to get over that, and that took a lot of prayer. I tell you, to this day, if you saw me this morning, today it was more getting mentally ready over here to stand up here before you today. But I was trying just to be in the zone. Like, it's hard for me to do that, so I have to force myself to step out of our comfort zone and build relationships with people and say, hey, how you doing? Hey, you know what? Are you in the life group? You know what? We meet on Tuesdays. If you can't make it, here's my number. Here's my wife's number. Call us, text us. We'll make sure you get there. Or you know what? We're not free. You know what? Here's a list. You know what? They have a life group over there near where you live at. Let's make a connection over there. Like, all these different things, it's not all about us. It's building relationships with other people and making sure, believers and non-believers, to make sure that we're advancing the kingdom of Christ. All right? So the last thing I want you to reflect on is a question. How can you be more intentional about building healthy spiritual relationships through rows, circles, and triangles? Take a minute to jot that answer down. Again, I'll repeat it. How can you be more intentional about building healthy spiritual relationships through rows, circles, and triangles? As you finish up those thoughts, I go back one more time to this quote. Again, this is one of the things that in my job, not yet. Well, it's up there. You can leave it up there. In my job, I go through everything. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I talk to administrators a lot. I talk to superintendents a lot in school districts, where it's all about the ins and outs and this got to be done, this got to be done, and this got to be done, but they're missing the relationship part with their people, right? And we know you can't have a top-down approach in everything that we do. So when I go out and talk about building relationships, it's the same message, but now I can actually kind of say that our package, I know exactly where I need to go to get my information from, what I need to rely on. Because I've got to the point now where, sometimes you're reserved at your job at what you might say to who. Now I don't care. I don't care. You know what? Have you ever thought about the one another's? And one another talk about love one another, build relationship with one another. We talk about building relationships through the one another's. Like, all this stuff doesn't bother me anymore. Like, that's one of the other hurdles I've gotten over in life. But this quote right here, this last little picture right here, is something I came across about a week and a half ago. And I think in our times, with politics, with religion in general, with just the divide we have in this country, this is what we need to ground ourselves in. Because remember, I talked about that package, and the love is the package with the bow on top. if we can just honestly say we love everybody we come in contact with, and yes, it takes prayer. It's not a thing that's going to happen just like automatically, right? But if we honestly say we're showing everybody love and we're going through life with a loving heart, a loving attitude, let God sort them out later, right? Your actions in turn reflect your beliefs. It's not about standing up and preaching scripture at everybody. Yes, we have to teach the scripture, but it's not about beating people over the head with it. It's not about making somebody feel guilty for a sin they've committed. I'm going to love on that person no matter what. With that, we're talking about spiritual progress through spiritual relationships. And I thank you for your time.